The early morning fog hung heavy over the quiet town of Willow Ridge, weaving its way between the picket fences and tall oaks that lined Maplewood Avenue. It was the kind of morning that begged for a warm cup of cocoa and a blanket. But life carried on as it always did. The soft rumble of the approaching school bus echoed through the neighborhood like clockwork, and the children, bundled in oversized jackets and brightly colored backpacks, giggled and chattered while they waited at their designated stop. Mothers stood on porches clutching mugs, waving goodbye, exchanging quick hellos with each other. Fathers kissed their kids on the head before stepping into their cars or heading back inside to finish breakfast. Nothing seemed out of the ordinary, just another typical school day beginning in the picturesque, peaceful town. But peace can be deceptive. Sometimes danger doesn't announce itself with sirens or chaos. Sometimes it hides in plain sight, beneath a hoodie, behind a parked car, or behind eyes that look far too calm. And in Willow Ridge on this particular morning, danger didn't come thundering in. It crept, silently, waiting for the right moment. Unseen by the parents sipping coffee or the kids shoving each other playfully, a shadow shifted behind a faded, blue minivan. A man, still, watching. His breath fogged the air in slow, calculated puffs. His eyes weren't on the road, or the trees, or the bus. They were locked on the children, one in particular. The minutes ticked on. The bus creaked to a stop. The kids cheered and shuffled forward. The driver gave a friendly wave. It was also normal. Until a presence, a sixth sense, sensed something terribly wrong. And that sense came from a dog. Officer Jace Monroe was a man carved from discipline. At 35, he had seen enough to know that evil rarely wears a villain's face. He wasn't flashy, wasn't the loudest voice in the room, but his eyes, steel blue and weathered, missed nothing. For the last 7 years, he'd partnered with Rex, a seasoned German shepherd with a gaze as sharp as his bite. Together, they had diffused threats, tracked fugitives, and found missing persons in the dead of night. But today, neither of them knew just how critical their presence would be. Driving slowly through the school zone, Jace kept one hand on the wheel and the other loosely resting on Rex's harness. It was part habit, part reassurance. Rex sat alert, ears perked, always scanning. Unlike most patrol dogs, Rex wasn't just trained, he was intuitive, almost eerily so. There were times Jace would joke to fellow officers, "Rex knows what's coming before I do." As they approached the stop on Maplewood Avenue, Rex suddenly straightened. No bark, no whimper, just a shift. His eyes locked forward. Jace noticed it instantly. "You see something, buddy?" he muttered, easing his foot off the gas. Rex didn't move. His tail didn't wag. His body became tense, focused. Jace glanced at the sidewalk. Kids lining up, the bus hissing to a stop. Everything looked routine. Except Rex didn't think so. And Jace had learned long ago never to ignore that. Pulling to the curb, Jace stepped out, hand casually resting on his sidearm, eyes sweeping the surroundings. Nothing unusual at first glance, but Rex had already started moving, slow, steady, toward the bus. Jace followed. The air was cold, but it wasn't the temperature that raised goosebumps on his arms. It was the dog's silence. A storm was building, and Rex was the only one who could smell the lightning. The children, oblivious to the rising tension, began boarding the bus. Some waved to Officer Jace, who nodded back politely, still trying to find what had caught Rex's attention. That's when he saw him. Out of the fog, a tall man emerged from behind the parked minivan. His hood was drawn low, nearly covering his eyes. His posture was casual, too casual. He walked with the kind of confidence only someone who thought they didn't need to fear consequences possessed. Rex stopped. His ears flattened slightly. Then came the growl, low, deep, guttural. A sound Jace hadn't heard in a long time, because Rex didn't growl without reason. The man continued toward the children, hands still in his coat pockets. Something about the way he moved, measured, rehearsed, sent a chill down Jace's spine. "Sir," Jace called out. "Can I help you?" The man didn't respond. He simply took another step, and then, in a flash, Rex lunged. Not toward the kids, toward the man. He didn't bite, didn't attack, just positioned himself directly in front of the suspect, body rigid, hackles raised, baring his teeth. A warning. A line had been crossed. The children froze. The man stopped. Jace rushed forward, hand now firmly, gripping his weapon. "Step away from the children," he ordered. "Right now." The man raised his hand slowly, smirking like someone amused by all the fuss. "I'm just picking up my niece," he said coolly. But Rex didn't believe him, and neither did Jace. Not for 1 second. The peaceful morning on Sycamore Street shattered in an instant. As Rex's deep warning growl cut through the air, children's laughter turned into piercing screams. Backpacks were dropped. Kids ran, behind nearby parents, and the school bus screeched slightly as the driver hit the brakes. Officer Jace Monroe, instinctively stepping forward, kept one hand near his belt and the other on Rex's harness. Rex had never reacted like this without cause, and his stance was rigid, fur on end, gaze locked. The man at the center of it, all stopped mid-step, hands half raised like he wanted to pretend he meant no harm. "Easy, it's all right," he muttered, though his eyes betrayed him. He was calculating, scanning for something, an escape route maybe. The energy shifted instantly. Parents emerged from porches, some calling their children's names, others frozen with phones in hand. Jace, trained and steady, ordered everyone to stay back. His voice echoed like a protective wall. Something about this man wasn't just wrong, it was dangerous. And Rex, who had seen combat and chaos, was acting like this was worse. Jace stepped closer, demanding to know who the man was. The man hesitated, then offered a casual excuse. He was there to drop off lunch for his niece. "She forgot it," he added, holding up a crumpled brown bag. But the lie had cracks. When asked for the girl's name, he replied, "Emily," without confidence. Jace's brows furrowed. He knew the kids in this district well. There was no Emily on that route. The man couldn't say which classroom she belonged to or even name the school properly. "The one down the road," he said vaguely, eyes shifting. His hands twitched slightly. Rex continued to growl lowly, inching forward with every heartbeat. The stranger's fake calm started to unravel. His smile faltered, replaced by flickering glances toward alleyways, parked cars, anywhere but Jace. Everything about him screamed wrong, and Rex, sensing a deeper threat, was now baring teeth. The paper lunch bag suddenly looked like a prop, something meant to make him look harmless. But it wasn't working anymore. And Jace, never one to ignore instinct, was already reaching for his radio. With one subtle motion, Jace clicked the mic clipped to his shoulder and calmly called it in. "Possible impersonator at bus stop number 12 requesting immediate background verification." The man started pacing slightly, rocking on his heels. "Is this really necessary?" he asked, trying to appear offended. But the cracks were now a canyon. Rex's stare was unwavering. Something deep inside the dog knew this man wasn't just lying. He was hiding something far worse. The radio crackled back with a reply that silenced everything. "ID doesn't match. Suspect using a false name. Prior incidents under different aliases. Possible link to missing person alerts." Jace stiffened. Every nerve in his body went alert. He took one step closer, hand now fully on his holster. "Sir, I'm going to need you to stay exactly where you are." The man didn't argue, but his eyes changed. That calculating look returned, like a cornered predator figuring out its next move. Rex growled louder, lips peeled back now. This wasn't just a hunch anymore. Something terrible had been moments away from happening. And thanks to Rex, it had been stopped. The moment officers pried open the rusty sliding door of Gregory Ellis's van, the air inside felt thick with silence. And something darker, more sinister. The dim morning light barely penetrated the cramped space, but what lay inside was enough to make hearts race and stomachs turn. Strewn carelessly across the floor were candy wrappers, brightly colored, childlike, but haunting in this context. Nearby, a child's drawing caught Jace's eye. It was crude but unmistakably innocent. A house, stick figures holding hands, a bright sun smiling down. The edges were frayed, the colors smudged, but the image told a story that clashed violently with the van's grim reality. The discovery of a small pink backpack wasn't surprising, but what was tucked inside made the room feel unbearably heavy. A worn photograph of two young girls, faces frozen in time, smiled back up at them. Then, Jace's hand paused over the final item. A silver charm bracelet, delicate and gleaming oddly against the dirty floor. The engraving S. Harper was clear and unmistakable. That single detail twisted the knife deeper. This was no coincidence. This was a chilling connection. Samantha Harper had been missing for 3 months, and her disappearance had devastated a nearby community. 10 years old when she vanished, Samantha was last seen playing near her home, but after that day, all traces disappeared. No ransom note, no eyewitnesses, no leads. The case had gone cold, slipping quietly from the headlines as hope dwindled. But now, with that bracelet in hand, the old wounds reopened like a fresh scar. For Jace and the rest of the department, the bracelet was a beacon, proof that the nightmare haunting the Harper family was far from over. This small token from Samantha's life was more than a clue. It was a scream from the past demanding to be heard. Suddenly, the man who had seemed like just a suspicious stranger was connected to something horrifyingly real, something that no parent should ever have to face. Days before the confrontation at the bus stop, surveillance cameras told a story, chilling in its innocence lost. At a nearby convenience store, a security camera captured the suspect, Gregory Ellis, standing near the entrance, offering candy to 2 little girls. At first, it appeared innocent, a stranger giving sweets to children. But as the footage played frame by frame, the truth emerged like a shadow creeping across a wall. The faces of the girls were unmistakable. One was Samantha Harper, and the other was Maya Collins, also missing, also feared lost to a similar nightmare. The realization struck hard. These weren't random disappearances. They were pieces of a calculated pattern. The man was seen coaxing the girls toward his vehicle, an unmarked van with no plates, disappearing from view seconds later. The footage was grainy, but damning, a silent witness to horrors that could have been prevented. And now, thanks to Rex's instincts and Jace's unwavering resolve, the investigation had a terrifying breakthrough. And a race against time was on to find the missing girls before it was too late. The interrogation room was thick with silence. Gregory Ellis sat slouched, his eyes darting anxiously toward every sound. A faint creak of the door, a footstep down the hallway, anything that might break the heavy stillness. His breathing was shallow, betraying the calm he tried so hard to project. Officer Jace Monroe watched carefully, knowing this man had secrets that wouldn't come out easily. But the moment Jace re-entered the room, something shifted. This time, he wasn't alone. Behind him, Rex, the German shepherd with an intimidating presence, padded silently but deliberately into the room. Ellis's face paled, his body tensed. The man's lips parted and he whispered in a shaky voice, "You don't understand, he never stopped staring." That single sentence sent a ripple through the room. Rex wasn't just a dog to Ellis, he was a symbol, a living nightmare. Jace leaned in, asking for clarification, but Ellis recoiled, eyes wild and unfocused. His silence resumed, heavier than before, but now laced with fear. Rex's gaze never left the suspect. It was a stare filled with instinctual understanding, the kind that only years of partnership with Jace had forged. This moment was more than a show of authority. It was the beginning of a psychological unraveling. The man's unease wasn't just about being caught. It was about the canine's unrelenting presence, a reminder that nothing hidden could remain so forever. Jace knew the dog's instincts were about to lead them to the truth, something far darker than anyone had imagined. Ellis's nervous eyes spoke volumes. There was a secret buried deep, and Rex was the key to unlocking it. The GPS trail from Ellis's van led officers deep into the dense wilderness just outside Willow Ridge, a forgotten patch of forest where sunlight barely touched the moss-covered ground. Navigating through thick underbrush, the team arrived at a dilapidated property long surrendered to time and neglect. Trees bent low over a rusted storage unit, its door barely hanging from its hinges, blending almost invisibly into the wilderness around it. The air smelled damp and stale, the kind that clings to old secrets. As officers cautiously stepped inside, their flashlights revealed piles of forgotten junk, broken furniture, rusted tools, cardboard boxes stacked haphazardly. But something about the room felt wrong, too enclosed, too deliberate. Jace's trained eye spotted a subtle distortion in the back wall, and upon closer inspection, they discovered a false wall concealed beneath layers of grime and debris. The team worked quickly, prying open the hidden entrance to reveal a small windowless chamber. It was claustrophobic, barely large enough to stand in, but its existence spoke volumes. This was no ordinary storage space. It was a prison, designed to hold and hide. The air inside was thick, heavy with neglect, yet beneath that oppressive atmosphere was a haunting stillness, a silent witness to horrors kept out of sight. The discovery sent a shiver through the officers. Whatever was inside would change everything. They steeled themselves to open the door fully, hearts pounding with dread and hope intertwined. The moment the hidden door creaked open, the scene inside was almost unimaginable. Two small figures crouched in the dim light, fragile shadows of children who had been lost to the world for months. Samantha Harper, the 10-year-old whose name had haunted missing persons reports for 3 months, sat curled up against the wall. Her face was pale and gaunt, cheeks hollow from malnutrition, but her eyes held a flicker of recognition, a silent plea for rescue. Beside her, Lila Easton, another missing girl from a neighboring town, clung tightly to a crumpled drawing of a dog, its fur, eyes, and stance uncannily similar to Rex's. Despite the trauma etched into their young faces, both girls were alive, breathing, and remarkably resilient. Samantha's small hand never left the silver charm bracelet around her wrist, engraved with her name, a tiny talisman of hope and identity in an otherwise dark ordeal. The officers moved slowly, speaking softly to avoid overwhelming them. Tears welled up as the reality sank in. These children, feared lost, had survived unspeakable conditions in this hidden prison. Emergency medics rushed in, checking vitals and offering water and blankets. The girls' whispered stories began to unfold, a tale of captivity, fear, and fleeting moments of comfort found in the drawing and charm that kept their spirits alive. Jace knelt beside them, promising safety and justice. Outside, news spread rapidly. Hope had pierced the long night of despair, all thanks to Rex's unwavering instincts and Jace's relentless pursuit. The discovery was more than a rescue. It was a powerful reminder that sometimes the smallest clues in the bravest hearts can save the most vulnerable from darkness. The moment the fingerprints were processed, a chilling truth emerged. Gregory Ellis wasn't just some random stranger passing through Willow Ridge. He was a man with a dark and sinister past. Law enforcement databases flagged him immediately. Under multiple aliases, Ellis had been a shadow lurking on the fringes of several communities, always just out of reach of the law. For years he had slipped through cracks, changing names and appearances, but the record followed him like a ghost. His real identity tied him to 2 cold cases of missing girls, disappearances that had haunted investigators, but never yielded enough evidence for arrest. The details were grim. Patterns of stalking, grooming, and abduction spread across state lines. Despite the horror that clung to his name, Ellis had somehow evaded capture, exploiting loopholes and flawed investigations. Now, with undeniable proof, his carefully constructed facade had finally cracked. The weight of his history pressed heavily in the interrogation room as Jace absorbed the gravity of the discovery. This man had been hiding in plain sight, and the missing girls from Willow Ridge were just the latest in a long, horrifying chain. For the first time, it felt like justice was within reach, not just for Samantha and Lila, but for every family left waiting, hoping for closure. As the investigation deepened, the pieces of Ellis's twisted plan came into sharper focus. Surveillance footage, witness statements, and digital footprints revealed a disturbing timeline. For weeks, the man had been meticulously observing the school bus route. His calculated patience was chilling. He studied the children's routines, memorized faces, and waited for the perfect moment to strike. Every day, he lingered near bus stops, blending into crowds, using small acts like offering candy as a sinister lure. His plan was methodical, a predator's quiet hunt masked by the mundane rhythms of daily life. But then Rex, the vigilant K9, with instincts honed by years of service, shattered that plan with a single growl. What could have been a tragedy was stopped before it even began, all because of Rex's sharp senses and Jace's immediate response. This was more than luck. It was the culmination of trust, training, and a bond between man and dog that saved lives. The pattern of stalking revealed a predator emboldened by time and anonymity, until that foggy morning, when a single growl changed everything. The school bus route, once vulnerable, was now guarded by a hero in a dog's form. The news spread like wildfire across the nation. Rex, the loyal German shepherd, became an instant symbol of bravery and hope. Headlines hailed him as a miracle. Dog, the guardian angel who stopped a tragedy before it could unfold. Schoolchildren from Willoridge and beyond made colorful drawings of Rex, some showing him with fierce glowing eyes, others with a gentle smile. Thank you cards poured in, addressed to the police department and Rex himself. Local businesses held fundraisers to honor the K9 unit, and social media buzzed with praise and stories of Rex's heroism. But beyond the public acclaim, Rex remained the humble dog at Jace's side, calm, alert, and ready for whatever came next. His instincts, sharper than any technology, had saved lives that day. In every corner of Willoridge, Rex's name was whispered with gratitude and admiration. He wasn't just a dog. He was family, protector, and a beacon of hope in a community healing from fear. During the press briefing, Officer Jace Monroe's usually steady voice wavered with emotion. There are moments in this job when you realize what you're really protecting: the innocent, the vulnerable. Rex didn't see just a man that morning. He saw a threat that none of us could. His instincts are unmatched, and his loyalty saved Samantha and Lila. We owe him everything. Jace's words resonated far beyond the room, reaching hearts everywhere, who understood the power of the bond between a handler and his canine partner. For Jace, it was not just about catching a criminal, it was about restoring hope and safety to a frightened town. That morning, amidst fear and confusion, Rex was the unspoken hero who changed everything. And for Jace, the story was a reminder that sometimes courage comes on 4 paws. When Samantha Harper was finally reunited with her mother, the relief was overwhelming: tears, hugs, and whispered promises of safety. But what touched everyone most was Samantha's quiet words to reporters as cameras captured her fragile smile. "I dreamed someone would find us. In the dream, it was a dog with gold eyes, just like him." The innocence and profound hope in that statement struck a chord. It wasn't just the police who had saved these girls, it was the unwavering spirit of Rex, the dog who refused to let evil win. That simple, heartfelt whisper became a symbol for Willoridge's healing, a reminder that even in the darkest times, hope can come with a growl and a gentle nudge. The girls' courage and the community's support set the stage for a new chapter, one where trust, love, and healing could flourish again. Rex's actions that morning went far beyond the rigorous training every canine undergoes. His reaction wasn't just obedience, it was pure, unfiltered intuition, honed by years of experience and an unbreakable bond with his handler. In a split second, Rex sensed what no human could detect: danger lurking beneath an innocent facade. This instinct, invisible to most eyes, became the difference between disaster and salvation. It forces us to ask a haunting question. What if Rex hadn't been there? What if his keen senses hadn't picked up on the threat? The chilling thought lingers, reminding us that some protectors operate silently, unseen and unsung, yet they guard us in ways words cannot capture. Rex is not just a trained dog. He's a living testament to the power of instinct, loyalty, and courage. His story challenges us to recognize and trust the unseen forces that watch over our safety every day. In a world where danger can hide behind the most ordinary masks, heroes come in many forms. Sometimes they wear a badge, and sometimes they wear a leash. Rex's growl was a beacon of light cutting through the fog of fear and uncertainty that morning. His courage brought hope to a frightened community and saved innocent lives. This story reminds us that bravery doesn't always roar loudly. Sometimes it's a quiet presence, a watchful eye, and a steadfast heart. The unseen protectors, whether human or animal, deserve our respect, gratitude, and trust. They remind us that even in the darkest moments, there is always light, sometimes in the form of a loyal dog who refuses to look away. As you carry this story with you, remember, heroes come in all shapes and sizes, and sometimes they are closer than you think. If this story moved you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with friends and family. Let's honor the heroes like Rex who protect us silently every day. Comment below with your thoughts or share a story about a special animal that changed your life. And don't forget to subscribe for more incredible tales of courage, hope, and unexpected heroes. Together we can celebrate the unseen protectors who make our world a safer place.